Josh here from Nicholas Machinery in Brisbane, just going over one of our bigger offerings in the Trident Plus range. The Trident Pluses are made for us to be exclusively distributed by Lovell, who is China's premier tractor manufacturer, and they've made a few changes for this particular model in our range. A couple of things we'll go over is the tractor's gross weight is a true 5 tonne, so you're getting an appropriately sized chassis for the horsepower of the tractor. We're not undersizing the chassis on you, and you're not paying more for less. A couple other features on this particular one is obviously the upgraded front end loader. You can do 1.2 tonne working capacity, do 1 tonne all day throughout the working range. Over here you've got a damper on your front end loader rams, makes operation a little bit smoother overall, just a nice to have in general. Pretty standard. You've got the Euro hitch setup, which is now standard across all of our range and all of our implements. Some nice to haves over here though. You've got an extra guard here on this front rim to minimize potential damage to that. And you've got a nice guard here to protect yourself from anything kicking up potentially into your bonnet area and whatnot. The bucket itself has been recently upgraded to be a slightly thicker gauge steel, so there's definitely no qualms. Not that there were any to begin with, but there's no qualms with bending a bucket now with the rated load limit. A couple other nice features are on this side over here. All the hoses are now run internally as opposed to externally, so the likelihood of snagging them are decreased by a quantifiable metric. Also, all exposed hose now have sheathing on them, both here and on the rear end of the front end loader. Now we'll go look at the rest of the tractor. As we work our way towards the back of the tractor, just one thing I wanted to make note of is over here you've got your 460mm wide tire and wheel combo, giving you that extra wide footprint, less likely to bog, extra grip, and not only that, you do have the option to change your wheel tracks by staining them up to another 150, nearly 200mm, or set them narrower as needed. Now, over here, pretty bog standard for a tractor with some nice little touches. So you have 3 sets of remotes, pretty well expected for a tractor of this scale. You've got your 12 volt 7-pin round there, should you decide to run a trailer or power something at the rear of the tractor. Now, of these 3 remotes, one of them actually has a detent in it, which I'll go over when we sit inside the tractor, and I'll explain further what that means. But it is definitely a nice feature that is not too common on a lot of tractors. Standard 3-point linkage setup, but all of our tractors now have quick hitch on them, as you can see by these balls here. All the tractors also ship with 2 drawbars in this case. You have your standard fixed drawbar and a swing drawbar as an option. Now, while we're here, I'll mention a servicing thing. See these little red nipples? Under them are your grease points. Please make sure to familiarize yourself with all the different grease points all over the tractor. Some of them are more obvious than others. Please have a look all over the tractor. And a couple other nice features that we throw on these tractors is you've got your rear-facing camera, which you can angle up or down depending on whether you need to hook up implements or you just want to monitor your implements on the back of the tractor. Say if you're looking over your shoulder. Another nice to have, not everyone will use it, but license plate bracket here. And as standard on all of our tractors, not only do we have the upward and your 3-point linkage, we actually have hydraulic downforce built into the 3-point linkage. Okay, so one other thing before we look inside and also cover the service side of things is just up the back here, you've got the fill point for the combined gearbox, diff, and hydraulic system. What separates this tractor among the rest of our tractors is the hydraulic fluid and the gearbox fluid are one. Number one, they have their own designated oil cooler, which we'll cover in the bonnet area, but they actually run a universal transmission oil 10W30, or also known as TTU oil. And whereas the other tractors run a separate 46-weight hydraulic oil. So on this side of the tractor, not that you'll be using it all too often, but you do have the option to get in and out of the tractor with 3 steps here, nice and easy, you're not reaching. Obviously, we do recommend getting in on the other side where possible, but sometimes you aren't afforded that option. As mentioned earlier, we have sheathing for all your hoses, and all the hoses run internally on the front end loader. Over here, you've got 2 sets of mirrors. One's a blind spot mirror, one's your standard size mirror. And you have not only the headlights built into the bonnet of the tractor, but you have 2 sets of extra driving lights to use. So here we are in the cabin. As mentioned, we were going to go over the operations of everything and all the different features we've got. We'll just work our way from left to right here. So on the left, you've got your shuttle shift to be operated just like all of our other tractors. Clutch in, forward, neutral, reverse. You can go just as fast in reverse as you can forward, not that we recommend it. One thing I repeat in a lot of videos, and I'll say it in this one, please don't ride the clutch. Keep your foot off the clutch pedal when you're not using it. Most of the other stuff here will look familiar. Split brakes as needed. Currently they're fixed together. Accelerator pedal. Just over here you've got your low, medium and high range boxes. Currently it's in high, low, medium that way. Handbrake just like your standard car. Over here is your PTO speed control. All of our implements run at 540 RPM. You can put that into neutral if needed to stop drive to the PTO. Down here in a pretty standard location for us is our four-wheel drive selector. Please only operate four-wheel drive in the low gear, and please remember to turn it off because you will just use unnecessary fuel, creating unnecessary drive to all four wheels. Up here you've got your sunshade as mentioned. Pull that down, pull that back to release it. Up here is the sunroof, nice to have. Over here is a combined Apple CarPlay and Android Auto head unit, which also acts as your screen for your front and rear view cameras. The front, obviously you have a windshield there, but the front camera is mainly to see where your bucket is at when you can't see it sitting in the cabin until you get a feel for it. You have your glass breaker there, should you ever need it, fingers crossed you don't. Now, this head unit, as mentioned, is paired, you are able to pair your phone to and Bluetooth directly to the radio, or use the radio as standard. You've got your aircon vents, pretty standard in any vehicle. Now, the difference in this particular air conditioning unit compared to a lot of our other ones is not only do you control the fan speed and cooling, you can actually turn on the heating from inside the cab without having to turn on the ball valve in the engine bay. Over here, you've got your front end loader controls, all of it on one joystick, up, down, and tilt built into it, and press that to activate the solenoid to either open and close the bucket or operate something like the auger if you've got a front end loader auger. Now coming over to this side of the cab, you've got your three auxiliaries, and as you can see, these ones just go forward and back, but this particular one has that detent that I mentioned earlier. So if you push this all the way forward, if you have an implement that uses a remote that actively has a hydraulic pump that needs to be triggered, this is what the detent would be handy for. This is a pretty niche use case. Not everyone will use it. In fact, very few, I suspect. Over here, standard H pattern shifter, just a bit reverse to your standard car one. You've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, this is your main 3-point linkage control over here. Forward all the way, back all the way. If you push that all the way forward, that'll lock forward, and that is the float for the 3-point linkage, which will just leave your implement in its float mode following the contours of the ground. Over here, just selects a bunch of switch selectors for all the different features and operations. Over here, spare USB socket that flips open there just to charge your phone or whatnot. Now, a couple other things I forgot to cover is over here, this handbrake looking assembly is a sub clutch for your PTO. Now, as mentioned, it is a clutch, so if you pull up somewhere and need your implement on the rear to stop having drive to it, you pull that up. But if you drive off with that still up, you will indeed cook your clutch, so please be mindful of putting that down. It's good practice to turn off the tractor anyway when you need to do something with an implement on the rear. And lastly, the digital dash is becoming pretty standard on the tractor, but this is one of the few models that actually displays your speed. I'll turn that on for you now. Not only does it display your speed, it also shows any potential error codes and keeps track of your maintenance schedule if you play with the menus there. We've covered the main other points of the tractor. We'll just go over the last service bits and just things to be mindful of. Not everything will be within your capability, but it's also just nice to know what you're looking at. Down here, you've got the fuel water separator. Sometimes, like the filter suggests, you can pick up water in your fuel. There is just a drain on the bottom of the filter here that you just crack, and that will drain the water out. Back here behind this panel is your fuel filter, the black filter just there, and down here is the oil filter. Now, sometimes you will pick up air in your fuel lines, and that could be because, number one, you've run it dry or you've had the tractor sitting for a while. What you do in that case is you crack this bleed nut here on the top of this fuel pump, this primer pump, and then you just keep squeezing this primer until all the air is out of the system and it's only fuel leaking out of here. Close that nut back up and you're good to go. Now back here behind this oil filter is a yellow handle for the dipstick, just back there. A lot of this here is a lot more easily accessible should you need to get there. It's just a bolt holding it in there and a bolt holding it in there. Up the front here, you've got your isolator switch for your battery, obviously your battery there. Oil cooler for the hydraulic transmission and diff system. Condenser for your aircon. Back here is your radiator. Now mind you, sometimes you might get seeds or grass or whatever else blocking up your radiator. There is a screen that is removable just by pulling on these handles here. There's one on each side there. And up the top, in the back of the engine bay, is actually a small little turbo that powers this tractor. There is no intercooler to worry about due to it running a low boost pressure. Now to round off this video, just up this side here, you've got your power steering pump, your hydraulic pump, and actually, just while we're here, a couple other things. As I mentioned, there are grease points all over the tractor. There's one there, and I do believe that there's one under the axle, but please just have a look as you familiarize yourself with the tractor. Over here is your starter motor. Back here is one of the hydraulic filters, and further back along the chassis is another one of the hydraulic filters. Not something you have to worry about until you get to the major service later on.